O thou kind Lord, thou hast created all humanity from the same stock. Thou hast decreed that all shall belong to the same household. In thy holy presence, they're all thy servants, and all mankind are sheltered beneath thy tabernacle. All have gathered together at thy table of bounty, and all are illumined through the light of thy providence. O God, thou art kind to all, thou hast provided for all, dost shelter all, conferrest life upon all. Thou hast endowed each and all with talents and faculties, and all are submerged in the ocean of thy mercy. O thou kind Lord, unite all, let the religions agree, and make the nations one, so that they may see each other as one family, and the whole earth as one home. May they all live together in perfect harmony. O God, raise aloft the banner of the oneness of mankind. O God, establish the most great peace. Cement thou, O God, the hearts together. O thou kind Father God, gladden our hearts through the fragrance of thy love. Brighten our eyes through the light of thy guidance. Delight our ears with the melody of thy word, and shelter us all in the stronghold of thy providence. Thou art the mighty and powerful. Thou art the forgiving, who overlooketh the shortcomings of all mankind.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this 33rd Annual World Religion Day observation presented by the Baha'i community of Barrie. My name is Troy Roach with Community of Christ, and on behalf of the organizing committee, I extend deep gratitude for the generosity of your time to attend here today, once again in this online format. Your presence is truly a blessing. World Religion Day is a global initiative dedicated to bringing awareness to and celebration of the principles and values common across all religions in an effort to create pathways for peace in our world. Justice through compassion and resilience is this year's theme, chosen from the awareness of all the changes and upheaval the world has experienced over the past year. Justice is a capacity of the human soul that enables each of us to see the world through our own eyes. Compassion and resilience, rather than aggression and violence, are its accompanying virtues. And all three are bound together through courage, the courage to achieve the oneness of humanity in this world. And so as you listen to each speaker's perspective, please notice what moves in you and where you resonate with it. Notice where you are called to action, advocacy, or activism toward upholding the worth and value of all persons, the pursuit of peace, and greater unity amongst our global diversity. At the end of our gathering, we will open microphones for a short time of discussion, sharing of thoughts, telling stories of hope and justice, and holding space open for each other with deep listening. In whatever way you might engage in today's event, may you find it a meaningful experience. And with that, we will begin with a prayer for justice, read to us by David Lochhead, followed by a drum chanting from Marg Raynor. David?
O my God, verily I invoke thee and supplicate before thy threshold, asking thee that all thy mercies may descend upon these souls. Specialize them for thy favor, and thy truth. O Lord, unite and bind together the hearts, join in accord all the souls, and exhilarate the spirits through the signs of thy sanctity and oneness. O Lord, make these faces radiant through the light of thy oneness. Strengthen the loins of thy servants in the service of thy kingdom. O Lord, thou possessor of infinite mercy, O Lord of forgiveness and pardon, forgive our sins, pardon our shortcomings, and cause us to turn to the kingdom of thy clemency, invoking the kingdom of might and power, humble at thy shrine, and submissive before the glory of thine evidences. O Lord, make us as waves of the sea, as flowers of the garden, united, agreed through the bounties of thy love. O Lord, dilate the breast through the signs of thy oneness, and make all mankind as stars shining from the same height of glory, as perfect fruits growing upon thy tree of life. Verily, thou art the Almighty, the self-subsistent, the giver, the forgiving, the pardoner, the omniscient, the one creator.
Blessed is the spot and the house and the place, and the city and the heart and the mountain, and the refuge and the cave and the valley, and the land and the sea and the island, and the meadow where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified. Blessed is the spot and the house and the place, and the city and the heart and the mountain, and the refuge and the cave and the valley, and the land and the sea and the island, and the meadow where mention of God hath been made, and his praise glorified.
Thank you, David and Marg. We now invite the Mayor of Barrie, Jeff Leahman, to bring greetings from the city. Welcome, Mayor Leahman.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for allowing me just a moment to bring greetings on behalf of Barrie City Council. We live in very confused times, and it is times like this where people of faith will need to rely on their faith to guide them, but also where the importance of concern for one's neighbor has never been greater. Over the last 2 years, we've been faced with the challenge of a global pandemic, and in our community, the challenge of not only acting to keep each other safe, through our own participation in the collective action required for public health, but also to reach out to those in our community in need. And it is particularly at this time of year that we think of our unhoused residents who may be struggling against both the elements, the pandemic, and the challenges of their own circumstances. But I appreciate a great deal for 12 years now that I've been invited as mayor to participate on World Religion Day and to see indeed the vitality and strength of so many different faith communities in our city. It is heartening in these troubled times to see the number of people who come together in the spirit of understanding, of the growth of knowledge across faiths, and in the spirit of collective action to support one another. So thank you again for allowing me to say a few words today, and for what all of you do within your own communities to support each other and our wonderful city.
Thank you, Mayor, for reminding us of the challenges that we face, but also the hope that exists in our own communities. Appreciate your presence. Also with us today is John Brassard, MP for Barrie-Innisfil. I'd like to welcome and invite him to say a few words as well. Welcome, John.
Thank you, Troy, and good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be joining you again this year. I'm sorry that we have to do it virtually once again, but it is a sign of the times that we are in, and they are times of great anxiety, in some cases, great division, and it's important for all of us to get together, to talk, to be there for each other, not just as individuals, but as a community as well. And so on this 33rd World Religion Day, I want to say thank you to the Baha'i community locally for this gathering. And I also ask, in the spirit of trying to heal some of those divisions, the anxiety, the fear, and the despair that people are feeling at this point, I ask that people of all faiths pray. Pray for our country, pray for our communities, not just here in Canada, but around the world. And I also ask you to pray for the leaders of our country. Pray that we may make decisions in the best interests of those who we serve at all levels of government. And so on this World Religion Day, I say thank you to all of you for the work that you're doing in our communities. There are many organizations and individuals who are making great differences to help those who are vulnerable, those who are feeling that anxiety, that despair, and that fear. And so thank you for all that you do. And it is a terrific honor for me to be here today to help celebrate World Religion Day with you and with Mayor Leahman as well. Thank you.
Thank you, John, especially for lifting up the call for those prayers, and so grateful that your calendar freed up for you to join today. Someone who could not be with us but did send their regards, and we're so grateful for her support every single year, is Andrea Kanjan, the MPP for Barrie-Innisfil. Though we will miss hearing from her, we do appreciate her participation every year and look forward to having her back in the near future. Moving now to our 3 themed videos you will see today. I'll be reading a corresponding card from the Virtues Project, which is a set of reflection cards with quotations from many wisdom sources. I'll be reading that as a preference to each video. And our first one is justice. Justice is being fair in all that we do. We continually look for the truth, not bowing to others' judgments or perceptions. We do not backbite. We clear up problems face to face. We make arrangements and agreements that benefit everyone equally. When we commit a wrong, we are honest in correcting it and making amends. If someone is hurting us, it is just to stop them. It is never just for strong people to hurt weaker people. With justice, we protect everyone's rights. Sometimes when we stand for justice, we stand alone.
The best beloved of all things in my sight is justice. Turn not, turn not, turn not away therefrom, if thou desirest me, and neglected not that I may confide in thee. By its aid thou shalt see with thine own eyes, and not through the eyes of others, and shalt know of thine own knowledge, and not through the knowledge of thy neighbor. Ponder this in thy heart, how it behooveth thee to be. Verily, justice is my gift to thee, and the sign of my loving kindness. Said it then, said it then, said it then before thine eyes. Said it then before thine eyes. O Son of Spirit.
We now invite Dr. Brian Carwana, Executive Director of the Encounter World Religion Center in Guelph, Ontario, to share with us on today's topic. Welcome, Brian.
Thank you. Thanks, Troy. Thanks to all of you for having me here. I really appreciate this opportunity to be with you. My name is Brian Carwana. I have a site called Religions Geek, and I run a center called Encounter World Religions. And I wanted to talk to you today on World Religions Day about the theme of justice. There's so much to say. Every religious tradition has long and deep resources on the concept of justice. But when I was trying to think where to start, I thought, this very week, the Sikhs had a holiday. The Sikh community celebrated the birth of Guru Gobind Singh, probably the second most important person in the tradition's history. And the Sikhs have a very strong commitment to justice. What they are known for especially is what is called their langar kitchen. These are people I brought there. And if you go into a Sikh Gurdwara, they will feed you. It doesn't matter if you're part of the community. No one will even ask. It doesn't matter if you don't know what to do and someone has to show you. They feed everybody. In fact, every Sikh Gurdwara has a large flagpole outside it so that people can see it from afar and know you can come here and they will feed you for free. No collection plate goes around. It is a religious obligation to feed people as a part of the commitment to justice. Guru Gobind Singh, though, also did something, brought something else, and that is that he started initiating some Sikhs into a higher calling called Khalsa Sikhs. Khalsa Sikh always has a turban and an uncut beard, and as part of it, they wear something called a kirpan. And the kirpan is a knife or dagger. And for people unfamiliar with the tradition, when they see a knife, it can cause the wrong conception. People can think of, violence or something like that. But the reason why Sikhs wear it and the context in which they wear it is that a good Sikh is to be what is called a Sant Sipahi. And this means a saint and a soldier. And the idea in the tradition is if there is injustice, you must try to do something about it, even if it's a great personal risk. You cannot look away. And so the spirit of this idea of the kirpan was actually exemplified by a politician in Canada, by Jagmeet Singh. When he was running in one of the elections, this woman accosted him during an event on stage and started yelling at him that we don't want you and your Sharia law. She kept going on and on, yelling about Sharia. What Jagmeet Singh did not do was say, you've got the wrong group. I'm Sikh, not Muslim. I'm ignoring here that I'm sure she doesn't have any conception of what Sharia is, but he didn't throw Muslims under the bus. He never said it, and this has happened to him more than once. His brother actually was accosted on the streets of Toronto, and it was captured on a cell phone with the same thing, you and your Sharia law, and he too refused to say, I'm not Muslim, because you can't do that in the tradition. You must stand up for injustice, no matter who it is. Sikhs are so, have done this so many times that an imam in Texas, Omar Suleiman, wrote an open letter to the American Sikh community, thanking them for how many times they have been accused of being Muslims, and instead of simply saying direct your hate elsewhere, have instead tried to dissipate the hate. They have refused again to throw the injustice in a different direction. And this sort of sentiment, I think, was also on display with the Rings of Peace. Yesterday, as some of you know, people in a synagogue, including a rabbi, were held hostage. And it reminded me of 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, when there was the Pittsburgh synagogue shooting. And I was in Toronto the next Saturday, and I went to the synagogue to kind of stand beside and be with my Jewish friends. And when I was there, Muslims in particular, there were Christians and others too, but the largest contingent were Muslims in the GTA, had formed these Rings of Peace, including my friend up on the top left, Hamid Salimi. And it was amazing. People inside were so overcome. I remember one woman crying, saying, I wish my mother could see this, Muslims here protecting us at Shabbat. And the Jewish communities were paid the favor. When there's been acts of violence against Muslims, they too have done this. And this is justice. Both the Muslim and Jewish communities have really come to understand in Canada that violence against one is violence against all. It's the same idea that the Sikhs are celebrating with the Kirpan. As well as when I thought about justice, I thought about First Nations. And they, of course, have been victims of tremendous injustice. But when I was thinking of their own contributions to it, one thing that really stuck out to me is that they extend the notion of justice. Or if I could put this differently, the First Nations communities widen the circle of who we should think about when we think of justice. And they do this in particular in two ways. One is the notion of the 7 generations. It's a common motif in First Nations communities. They name education institutes after it and companies. And 7 generations is that justice must not just be for me and you and the people we know. It must we don't know. For people whose grandparents we will never meet because they will live so far in the future. We live in an age of capitalism where the impetus is on your quarterly results. What are your results today? And this widens the circle of concern to people well beyond us. And the second way they widen the circle of justice is that the concept of non-human persons. That is, First Nations communities, when they think of justice, include the moose, the caribou, the wolf, include lakes and mountains, all of which are understood to have their own kind of spirit, or many of which can, and they have organized and rallied to extend justice to nature itself, which in turn is necessary for our own survival. To conclude, I just wanted to end with something from our Jewish friends who have this wonderful notion of tikkun olam. And tikkun olam means to repair the world. And the Jewish tradition is very invested in this idea that all of us has a responsibility. The mayor and the MP talked about these tough times, that the world needs repairing. And we do risk in these tough times of being overwhelmed by COVID, overwhelmed by environmental risk, overwhelmed by political polarization and dire state of the democracy to our south. And to this, in the Jewish community, there is a response, which is written in the Talmud, and it says, do not be daunted by the enormity of the world's grief. Love mercy now. Do justly now. Walk humbly now. And then it concludes, you are not obligated to complete the work of justice, but neither are you free to abandon it. It's okay. We don't have to solve every problem. We are not obligated to complete complete the work. Neither are we free to abandon it. We need to do what we can do. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and a happy World Religions Day to you all.
Thank you, Brian. I always appreciate the confluence that you bring to helping our understanding pull it all together. Much appreciated having you here. And what a wonderful segue to our next speaker. I will now invite Jeff Wellman, the Interfaith Coordinator of the Shalom congregation in Barrie, Ontario, to share perspectives on behalf of the Jewish tradition. Welcome, Jeff. Pleasure to see you again.
Thank you, Troy, and Shalom Aleichem to everybody. We have a standing invitation at Shalom that when this pandemic is over, you're all welcome to join us for services. We have an open door policy that anybody from any faith can join us for worship on Saturdays. If you don't know, we do it Saturdays, and everybody is welcome. Now, if you were to come to one of our services, at the very end of it is the Aleinu prayer, which states that the goal of the Jewish people is to perfect the world under the sovereignty of God. The term to perfect the world can be expressed in the Hebrew dignitaries olam, as been mentioned, which also means to fix or repair the world. And one only has to, look around on the streets of Barrie to see that the world needs repairing to alleviate the homelessness, the hunger, the poverty, the destitution. It's there. And we are warned in the Torah, in Deuteronomy, that there will never be a cease to the needy ones. There will never be a time until the Messiah comes where the world will not need to be repaired. In the Reformed tradition, the repair of the world comes first, then the Messiah. In the Orthodox tradition, the Messiah comes, then the repair. Take your pick. But we will work to repair the world first. Now, how do we do this? Well, obviously there's a need to redistribute wealth to help everybody. In the Jewish tradition, that's comes under the idea of tzedakah, okay? That's charity. And it's the idea of giving to the poor, giving to the needy. And so I thought I could go a number of ways with this, but what I thought I would do is give a Hebrew lesson. So I'm going to share my screen, and it's not a fancy PowerPoint. It's actually a Jamboard, which is the whiteboards. I teach physics, that's what I do. So this is going to be a lesson, but I promise you no tests, no assignments. It's just a quick little lesson. So I'm going to share my screen and hope that things will go well. And this one should be it. And thumbs up, everybody can see it? Yes? The gremlins of the internet are good? Good, good, you never know. There's one thing I've learned in 2 years of pandemic teaching. Yeah, you never know. So the theme is justice through compassion and resiliency. Now, as I said, we start with tzedakah, and we teach this at kids at a very young age. If you go to a Jewish home, or you go to a Jewish day school, or you go to a Jewish religious school, you will see these little blue boxes with the word tzedakah on it. Why? It's charity. And the kids have been trained at a young age that you should put, change in there, and that's going to go towards helping the needy. We even teach them a blessing. It's Brukat Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidnesu bitmatav vitivanu alahaz tzedakah. Okay, so blessed art thou, Lord our God, Master of the universe, who has sanctified us with the commandments about the tzedakah. Okay. Now, here's where the Hebrew lesson comes in. Some of you might know, some of you may not know, but in the Hebrew language, we always start with 3-letter root words. And then from these meanings, we break and build new root words by using prefixes and suffixes and a gender and some sort of preposition or something. So new words get produced. Now, Sastaka is a long word, so you know it had to have a root word. So here we go. The root word for Sastaka, charity, actually comes from the word justice, tzedek. Okay, it's a tazadi, a daf, a kof. Okay, dalet, kof. And if you change the vowels, that's the other way we do it. And if you're not familiar with the Hebrew language, we are consonant, vowel when it comes to spelling our words. And we don't have vowels per se, we have these little things down here. These are our vowels. Some Hebrew readers, once they get really good, they don't need the vowels. Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm just lucky the commandment is to learn and not to master. So I'm okay. So this is the root word. And we'll just bring it up here. You have this one. And remember, we read this way. We go this way. Tazadi, a dalet, a kof. Tazadi, dalet, kof. Tazali, dalet, kof. This is the root word. So you change the vowels. You go from tastek to tastak, which means righteous. You change a couple vowels. You add a little ending to it, and you get tasteka, which means righteousness, but means charity. Now, the rabbis pay very close attention to where the words come from. And that gives them meaning. And the thing is, you cannot have justice without righteousness. You cannot have justice without charity. And vice versa, you cannot have righteousness without justice. So they're one and the same to the rabbis. And by combining the highest ideal of both practices in our pursuits of each, we pursue justice in its purest and more meaningful form. And if you go to the Torah and you go to the prophets, and when they express God's anger at the people for doing injustice, the failure to uphold these laws concerning the poor and the vulnerable is often at the core of their critique. So it is a vision of a society where the strong and the haves understand their obligations to the weak and the have-nots, and to the community as a whole. It is a society in which citizens not only obey the law, but understand the need to go above and beyond the law in order to create a truly just order. And you see this commandment, and you see this urge to create this perfect society, this just society, especially in Deuteronomy. If you go into Deuteronomy, you see it a lot. And there's everything from forgiving debts every 7 to every 7 of 7 years or 50 years, is the idea to reboot the economy for a more equitable level, so you don't have great accumulation of wealth in one spot. You see this in the commandment to leave you the corner of the fields unharvested, so the poor can gather food to eat. Remember, this was a time before there was any sort of national social network. This was the social network. You see this in the commandment to sojourn with the stranger. So you see God in everybody, even if they don't look like you, pray like you, not the same amount of wealth as you, you see God in everybody. So you're ordered to sojourn with the stranger. And this is core to the Jewish belief. Rabbi Sachs, who had a blessed memory, who had a big influence on my return to faith, he had made this statement. He said, nothing more marks Judaism as a religion of love than its emphasis on tzedakah. We do not accept poverty, hunger, homelessness, or disease as God's will. To the contrary, God's will is that we heal these fractures in his world. As God feeds the hungry, so must we. As God heals the sick, so must we. We become good by doing good, and we walk in God's way by acting out of love. And you cannot separate that from justice. It's one and the same. Now, to make this a little quicker, my time is limited. This is another person who's been in the news just recently, Ruth Vader Ginsburg of blessed memory. And at her funeral, she had this display. And this comes from Deuteronomy, chapter 16, verse 20. And it's justice, justice, you shall pursue. Or in the Hebrew, testek, turdaf. And the full statement is Lam Tateka Vaharasta Etzeretz Asher Adonai Elachenechan Natan Lach. Or justice, justice, you shall pursue so you can live. And that is the goal of the Jewish faith. This is the goal of all faiths. This is how we see each other. This is how we will make the better world. And this ultimately, to repair the world, is where we want to go. So I'm going to thank you for your time. Hopefully I can get back to the new, let me see, stop sharing here soon. Stop share, there, stop share. Hopefully the pandemic will be over soon. Hopefully we can start meeting face to face. Hopefully we can start sharing our other faiths. And I wish you the best from the Blessed One to you and your loved ones. Thank you.
Well, proving we're never too old, no matter what age we are, to learn something a little bit. Thank you, Jeff. Your invitation and hospitality is infectious. I hope folks will take you up on the opportunity to visit the congregation. Thank you. I would now invite Gurjit Kaur from the Simcoe Sangat community to share on behalf of the Sikh tradition. Welcome, Gurjit.
Thank you. Hello, everyone, and good afternoon. I'm from Simcoe Sangat, as Troy has mentioned. We get together for Sikh prayers and try to contribute wherever we can at the best of our ability. And I would like to start off with, I would like to thank first the Baha'i community, its faces, Khorshid, Troy, and everyone, the whole team behind the scenes, for keeping us all in the loop and making it kind of a beautiful bouquet out of graceful flowers, which for me is a great sense of oneness. With that, I would like to request Kiwi and Assis to start with the prayer, and they will translate as well. And they will then start up and share their thoughts on today's topic. Assis and Kiwi.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kiwi Kohli, and I'm Assis Kohli, and we're from the Sikh community. So as Gurjit mentioned, we'd like to start off with a quick prayer, and then I'd like to tell you all a bit from the past that relates to our topic today, which is justice through compassion and resilience. So, prayer. एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भय निर्वैर अकाल मूरत जूनी सभंगुर प्रसाद जप आदि सच जुगादि सच है भी सच नानक हो सी भी सच नानक हो सी भी सच एक ओंकार सतनाम करता पुरख निर्भय निर्वैर. There's one God whose name is truth. He's the creator and has no fear and no hate. अकाल मूरत जूनी सभंगुर प्रसाद जप. He's omnipresent, never born, and self-perpetuating. With Guru's grace, recite. आदि सच जुगादि सच है भी सच. True since beginning of time, true through the ages, is true now. नानक हो सी भी सच नानक हो सी भी सच. Says Nanak will forever be true. वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह. So there are quite a few instances in the Sikh religion that would prove how much we believe in justice through compassion and resilience, but there is one that we would really like to share today. So a beautiful example of compassion and resilience would be Bhai Kanhaiya Ji's selfless deeds. Back during the time of our 10th Guru, Guru Gobind Singh Ji, there was a Sikh named Bhai Kanhaiya Ji. During the time of war, he would bring water to the wounded soldiers on the battlefield. Of course, this was already a good deed, but what made it better was when Bhai Kanhaiya Ji went to give water, it wasn't Sikh, Hindu, or Muslim soldiers that he saw in his eyes. They were all simply wounded soldiers in need of water. This allowed him to give water to both Sikh and soldiers on the opposing side without discrimination. So when Guru Gobind Singh Ji was informed about this, he asked Bhai Kanhaiya Ji whether it was true or not. And in response, Bhai Kanhaiya Ji said that he saw no Mughal or Sikh on the battlefield. He only saw human beings. He further said that they all have the same God spirit, which meant to him that he should treat them all equally. There are so many other instances from the past that we can talk about, but what we really need to focus on is now. What are we doing to bring justice through compassion and resilience? What are we doing to be the ones that are courageous enough to demonstrate oneness, especially in times like this where we're all in a situation where everything is new to us? We need that courage now more than ever. So at this time, we're trying to find ways to contribute to the community by doing what we can, whether that's through being active members of groups such as the Barrie Families Unite, or by donating to places such as the Salvation Army and the David Busby Center. Thank you so much for having us. As always, it's been a pleasure. And if you're aware of any rising needs, please feel free to reach out to us about it at Simcoe Sangat. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram. And yes, thank you so much, and happy World Religions Day.
Thank you.
What a pleasure and a treat to hear you sing and play and to share and call out the actions that courage demands. Appreciate it. So next up, we would typically hear from Jen Kelsang Suma, but she could not be here today. So alternatively, we welcome Francine Uppiah, a member of the local Baha'i community, to share a sacred reading from the Buddhist tradition. Francine.
Thank you, Troy. This sacred reading is a Buddhist prayer for the well-being and happiness of all beings. It is a beautiful metta, or loving kindness meditation by the Dharma teacher, the Venerable Vishuddharaka. One could certainly call it a prayer, although in Buddhist, prayer is no appeal to a supreme being. Rather, it's a deep and earnest aspiration and wish for happiness from one being's heart to the hearts of the all sentient beings. May penetrating light dispel the darkness of ignorance. May all karma be resolved and the mind flower of wisdom bloom in Nibbana's eternal spring. May all those who are afflicted be affliction-free. May they be serene through all their ills. Even if bodily afflictions do not subside, may we all be healed in heart and mind. May all beings live in peace and harmony. May they have health and wealth and comforts and friends that are true. May they have skills, talents, and knowledge, and sweet success in all that they do. May they have joy and happiness in abundance. May all beautiful, great, and noble virtues of generosity, love, kindness, compassion, patience, fortitude, tolerance, forgiveness, honesty, courage, strength, energy, resolution, determination, resilience, perseverance, consideration, humility, gratitude, contentment, composure, serenity, wisdom, understanding, and equanimity be theirs. May they attain full wisdom and enlightenment. May they be liberated from all suffering. Venerable Vishnu Dharakara. Happy World Religion to you all.
Thank you, Francine, for bringing us representation of the spirit of Buddhism. Turning next to our compassion video, I'll read once again from the Virtues Project. Compassion is deep empathy for another who is suffering or living with misfortune. It is understanding and caring and a strong desire to ease their distress. Compassion flows freely from our hearts when we let go of our judgments and seek to understand. Our compassionate presence helps people to know they are not alone. Sometimes they don't need us to fix anything. They only need to be heard with compassion so that they can connect to their own inner wisdom. We need our own compassion as much as others do. Whether a silent prayer or a gentle touch, compassion is a priceless gift.
en la paz. Salam, shalom. Creemos en la paz. Salam, shalom. Creemos en la paz. Salam, shalom. Creemos en la paz. Salam, shalom. We will work for peace. 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 Salam, shalom. Obramos por la paz. 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 Salam, shalom. Nous œuvrons pour la paix. 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 Salam, shalom. Vivimos en la paz. 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 Salam, shalom. Nous vivons dans la paix. 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 Salam, shalom. We can live in peace. 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 Salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom. Peace, salam, shalom.
We now invite Catherine Manson, a member of the Barrie Community of Christ, to share reflections from her unique Christian tradition. Welcome, Catherine.
Thank you very much. So as Troy says, I'm from Barrie Community of Christ, and I thank you for this time to share with you. Since 1986, I have worked as a staff person in a nonprofit community legal clinic in Toronto, assisting low-income residents to access justice and their rights to justice. Over the years, I've worked, supported, and advocated for justice to our most vulnerable communities. However, it wasn't enough, and I turned to my faith community. Community of Christ is called to be in the forefront of organizations and movements which are recognizing the worth of persons and are committed to bringing the ministry of Christ Jesus to bear on our lives. Through that, we have our 9 enduring principles. And through these principles, there is justice, compassion, and resilience in all of them. God's grace, especially as revealed in Jesus Christ, is generous and unconditional. We seek to uphold and restore the worth of all persons individually, and to restore the worth individually and community, challenging unjust systems that diminish human worth. We are all called. God graciously gives people gifts and opportunities to do good and just. Responsible choices. We are called to make responsible choices within circumstances of our lives that contribute to the purposes of God. The pursuit of peace. God wants shalom, justice, reconciliation, well-being, wholeness, and peace for all creation. Unity and diversity. We celebrate God's peace wherever it appears or is being pursued by people of goodwill. And the church embraces diversity and unity through the power of the Holy Spirit. And blessings of community. True community includes compassion for and solidarity with the poor, marginalized, and the oppressed. The next few slides show how Community of Christ lives Christ's mission and honors today's themes of justice through compassion and resiliency. We have various communities and organizations and groups that come together to celebrate earth stewardship, human rights, world peace, and hunger. We have a Children's Peace Pavilion in Independence, Missouri, where we ask people and share our knowledge, bringing justice throughout the world. We work within our communities to recognize and honor those of our LGBTQ+ communities, to make sure that they understand that they have a space within our faith community and they're recognized as leaders within our community. We have an International Peace Award that's given every year. In 2016, I attended the World Conference where that was presented to Leahman Gaboyi, who activated as a pivotal role for women in the Liberian War in 2013. She was an amazing person to sit and listen to. Our faith community also believes in song, discussion, and dialogue. We have a wonderful group here in Toronto called Beyond the Walls Choir, and they bring forward and sing a lot of our justice songs that are highlighted in our Community of Christ hymnal, our Community of Christ Sings hymnal. We also have podcasts, Project Zion, where people can listen and share information about what's happening around the world. We also have a number of local initiatives, and we're proud to be part of Kairos here in Barrie and the Justice Walk in April or March during the Easter season. We have Creating Connections as the people can come together and share both religious and spiritual formation and helping others living in mission. And recently our Canada East Mission has started a children's Peacemakers Book Club for children. I'm so proud to see the initiatives that have come forward. I'd like now to, I'll stop sharing, and I'm going to share my time with my daughter, Kelly. She's going to read a poem from Anne Bonifin, who is a pastor in Australia. And this just came out in our recent Herald magazine. Kelly?
Bind us. May we be bound, O God, not with ropes that restrict, segregate, divide, not with ropes that discriminate race or disability, not with ropes that limit difference or gender or age, not in or out, not with ropes that neatly tie up class or wealth or privilege, nor with cords that bind us to fear. May we be bound, O God, with ropes that splice us to your current of compassion. Like a conduit, may we be conductors of grace and encouragement and equity. May we seek harmony even within discord. And may our cords loop again and again and again, binding hope to suffering. May every exchange uplift and energize and promote peace. Bind us to the heart of Christ's boundless love. Hold us tight, God. Lift us up, God. Let us glimpse your perspective. Let us see what you see.
Thank you both for sharing with us and for letting us know that progressive ways of thinking in faith traditions can, how they can work mission in the community. Appreciate you both being here. Next, we will hear from Zohaib Tahir, member of the Barrie Muslim Youth, and perspectives he shares from the Islamic tradition. Welcome, Zohaib.
Thank you, Troy, for having me. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So may the peace and mercy of God be with you all. And yep, thank you again for allowing me to speak at this series event. And what follows is my humble attempt to explain what I think justice through compassion and resilience means for me. So Muslims all over the world are being tortured, oppressed, and killed for their religion. For example, the Uyghurs in China, the Palestinian people, the Muslims of India, the Rohingya Muslims, and closer to home, Muslims face discrimination, Islamophobia in their daily lives in Canada. As witnesses for Allah, even if it is against yourselves, your parents, or close relatives, be they rich or poor. Allah is best to ensure their interests, so do not let your desires cause you to deviate from justice. If you distort the testimony or refuse to give it, then know that Allah is certainly all aware of what you do. Believers should stand up for justice and fairness in all situations. And also there's a warning that if you do not, then again, God is all aware of what you are doing. And furthermore, living here in Canada, if anyone feels that their rights were taken away or not respected, they have many options. They can, speak to their human resources department at their work. It's any larger community. They can organize peaceful protests to combat the injustice. Another verse from the Quran, so this is chapter 5, verse 8, says, O believers, stand firm for Allah and bear true testimony. Do not let the hatred of a people lead you to injustice. Be mindful of Allah. Surely Allah is all aware of what you do. And again, this just to all people, even your enemies, and that is closer to righteousness, and God is all aware of what you do. Also, it was narrated from Abdullah bin Amr bin al-As that the Prophet, blessing peace be upon him, said, those who are just and fair will be with Allah, Most High, on the thrones of light, at the right hand of the Most Merciful. Those who are just in their rulings and their dealings with their families, and those of whom they are in charge. And one of the narrators of this tradition said that both of God's hands are his right hands. And this is from Sunan an-Nasai, hadith number 5379. And for any person who is interested in ending Islamophobia and discrimination of all forms in Canada should look into the National Council of Canadian Muslims. For people that don't know, it is an independent, non-partisan and non-profit organization built from within the Canadian Muslim community, and NCCM is the leading voice for Muslim civic engagement and the promotion of human rights. They have many campaigns going on, and one of their campaigns is to defeat Bill 21. That bill was signed into law on June 16, 2019. And for people that don't know, the law prohibits a person who shows any religious symbol, such as the hijab, the turban, or the kippah, from holding several public positions of power in Quebec. Public servants such as police officers, lawyers, or even teachers cannot identify themselves as members of any faith group while working. So that bill legalizes discriminations against minorities, and all of our rights and freedoms are on the line. And again, your identity should not limit your opportunities. And NCCM and their partners are challenging the law in court, and they will not stop until the law is removed. In this life, you do your best to get justice, but know that all matters of injustice will be brought back to God. And on that day, on the day of judgment, everyone will get the true justice. And I will end with the following verse of the Holy Quran, which is chapter 21, verse 47. وَدَاءُ الْمَوَازِينَ فِي الْقِسْطِ لِيَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ فَلَا تُظْلَمُ نَفْسٌ شَيْئًا وَإِنْ كَانَ مِثْقَالَ حَبَّةٍ مِّنْ خَرْدَلٍ أَتَيْنَا بِهَا وَكَفَى بِنَا حَاسِبِينَ. So the translation goes, we will set up scales of justice on the day of judgment, so no soul will be wronged in the least. And even if a deed is the weight of a mustard seed, we will bring it forth, and sufficient are we as a vigilant reckoner. Thank you again for allowing me to speak, and I hope you all learned something. Yes, I hope you all have a great day.
So, Heba, appreciate the parallels that you draw and that you highlighted the racializing that exists. Thank you for helping to build that bridge of peace today. And we will now end with Susan Ludwig, member of the local spiritual assembly, who will share perspectives from the Baha'i tradition. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you, Troy. I really appreciate all the work that you've put into doing this today. The behind the scenes hours, I'm sure, are plentiful, and helping us all get our ducks in a row, that's no small feat. So thank you so much. There's the best part of being the last person to speak is that you get to hear what everyone else says. And the joy of being in this position is that you get to hear all the things that people say that resonate with what you truly believe. So thank you to those who have shared with us so far. The worst part is you start getting real nervous, but I'm okay. And I'm really excited to share with you some of the teachings of the Baha'i faith. One of the really important teachings is the oneness of mankind and the oneness of God. And I've been hearing this theme repeated over and over again. This is so exciting to me. I am going to share my screen, and I'd like to share with you some of the writings of Baha'u'llah, and I hope that you are able to feel the resonance of what he has to say to all of us. We're really honored to be a part of this, and thank you so much for working with us to create this World Religion Day today. In all of the faiths, there are kind of lists of things that help people to live more spiritually satisfying lives. And the Baha'i faith also has this list of things, and there's quite a long tablet or a chapter that is written about things that are kind of Cole's notes of how we can live a satisfying life. I'd like to share just a few. The source of all good is trust in God, submission unto his command, and contentment with his holy will and pleasure. And I won't try to interpret this for you. I want you to think for yourself what that means to you. The source of all glory is acceptance of whatsoever the Lord hath best bestowed, and contentment with that which God hath ordained. The source of all learning is the knowledge of God, exalted be his glory. And this cannot be attained save through the knowledge of his divine manifestation. The source of all courage and power is the promotion of the word of God and steadfastness in his love. I'd like to read a story about an early believer in the Baha'i faith. His name is Mirza Haydar Ali. I don't know when he was born. He was a very old man when he died in 1920 in Haifa, and he had the benefit of being a very close friend of both Baha'u'llah and his son Abdu'l-Baha. So I'd like to read a story about, he's called the Angel of Carmel. Carmel is the mountain in Israel where the important sites of the Baha'i faith are located. So a woman by the name of Lua Getzinger was visiting in Akka. And Mrs. Lua Getzinger was one day in Akka. A Western woman was there also, and she was telling Abdu'l-Baha about all her troubles. This is a strange thing to do, for usually people, when they enter the presence of Abdu'l-Baha, are so filled with a contagion of his radiant love that they think only of their blessings. Abdu'l-Baha, with great kindness, listened for half an hour to the Western woman's troubles. They were not really very big troubles. At last he arose and he said he had another engagement and he must be going. But there, he said, pointing out of the window, goes a man whom I will bring to see you. His name is Mirza Haydar Ali. We call him the Angel of Mount Carmel. He walks on earth, but he lives in heaven. He's had many troubles and he will tell you all about them. Abdu'l-Baha went out, but quickly returned with Mirza Haydar Ali, whom he presented to the woman and then departed. The Angel of Mount Carmel, with great humility and sweetness of manner, began to talk with the woman of the luminous century in which we live and the divine age that is to be. She listened for a while impatiently and at last broke in with, "But Abdu'l-Baha said you would tell me about your troubles." Mirza Haydar Ali looked up in amazement. "Troubles?" he replied. "Why, madame, I have never had troubles. I don't know what troubles are." Just to give you some story backfill, Mirza Haydar Ali had been taken a prisoner and he was put in a bag and he was tied to the back of a camel and the bag slipped so that he was dangling underneath the camel. And he had to travel many, many miles in desert heat. And that's just one of the things that happened to him during his long life. And he didn't see those as being troubles because they were service to God. Another quote by Mirza Haydar Ali, when in later years he was asked by an American pilgrim to Haifa why the Baha'is all looked so happy, she was thinking especially the radiant joy in his face, he replied, "Sometimes we have surface troubles, but that cannot touch our happiness. The hearts of those who belong to the kingdom are like the sea. When the wind is rough, it troubles the surface of the water, but 2 meters down, there's perfect calmness." I'm hearing this reflected in all of the stories that each of you shared today and each of the presentations, and I'm delighted to be a part of this time that we can share together. Thank you so much.
Well, Susan, what a wonderful way to tie all those threads together in a knot at the end to keep it all connected for the future. Thank you for sharing with us today. So that does bring us to the end, or concludes our list of speakers for today. But before moving into the open discussion portion, we will turn to a few moments of musical reflection to help us absorb and process what we have heard here today. And so I invite you into your own mode of contemplation and mindfulness or meditation as we listen to this video for just a few moments. Our time is winding down, and before our closing prayer, I would like to extend appreciation to all the speakers today for the time and intention they put into preparing the words we would all hear. I sense they have been meaningfully received. And to each one attending, arriving here with an open mind in support of a voice so desperately needed in the world for peace and love. Thank you for your kind heart. Hopefully you have each sensed the movement of the theme as we flowed through the program and are taking away a little more clarity, not only of how we understand each other's faith traditions, but how we are all interconnected to everyone and everything, aware of the shared values and principles we uphold, affirm, and live out, and mindful of what that means to us in both our inner and outer lives. Truly, we are global citizens on a similar journey in the same direction. Our closing prayer will be our resilience video. But first, I will read our last card from the Virtues Project. Resilience is the strength of spirit to recover from adversity. When we experience disappointment, loss, or tragedy, we find the hope and courage to carry on. Humor lightens the load when it seems too heavy. We overcome obstacles by tapping into a deep well of faith and endurance. At times of loss, we come together for comfort. We grieve and then move on. We create new memories. We discern the learning that can come from hardship. We don't cower in the face of challenge. We engage fully in the dance of life.
Oh God, my God, aid thou thy trusted servants to have loving and tender hearts. Help them to spread amongst all the nations of the earth the light of guidance that cometh from the company on high. Verily, thou art the strong, the powerful, the mighty, the all-subduing, the ever-giving. Verily, thou art the generous, the gentle, the tender, the most bountiful.
Namaste to you all. Go in peace. Salam. Shalom.